True love is not something you find easily. It is not sweet words, empty promises, or outward gestures. True love is deep commitment, the willingness to face challenges, an endless journey, and most importantly, it is not based on fleeting emotions. I once said that if you want to achieve success, you must focus on solving problems, and love is the same. To love correctly, you must understand what you need and what you can give. A man who truly loves does not just share his emotions, but takes action. Emotions come and go, but actions demonstrate consistency. That is why I always focus on actions and results. When I love, I do not only love with words, I love with everything I have, my mind, my strength, and my future. Love is not just about maintaining a relationship, it is about building a sustainable future together. True love is not something you only see when everything is going smoothly. It becomes evident when you face challenges, when things don't go as planned, and when you feel at your lowest. I used to think that when I met the right woman, I would feel it immediately, and love would naturally form. But love is not something that comes from the outside. It is something you build from within, from commitment, from determination not to give up. A man who truly loves is not the one always by your side at every moment, but the one who will persist even through difficulties. Love is not about being together all the time. It's about knowing when to give space so that each person can grow and become better. True love is a relationship where both partners grow together. That's why when I look at a relationship, I don't just focus on the present emotions, but also on the future. You cannot love sustainably if you only live in the emotions of the present without preparing for the future. And when you love someone, you must understand that love is not only about your emotions, but about sacrifice, commitment, and sometimes separation, so that each person can grow on their own. This is the biggest difference between true love and superficial relationships. You cannot maintain love without deep understanding and preparation. A real relationship is a continuous process where both sides constantly learn and improve themselves, not only to sustain love, but to achieve mutual growth. Love is not a fairy tale with a happy ending. It is a process that requires constant effort and investment, just like how I built SpaceX. All you need is commitment and action. And if you have enough determination, you will see that true love is never a fiction, but something you can create through the right actions. The difference in how women and men love is not something that is immediately obvious to everyone, but if you observe closely, you will see that the way men and women express love is clearly distinct. It's not about emotional differences, but about how each gender approaches and handles issues. Women tend to love through emotions. They feel love in every moment, in every glance, every gesture. They love immediately, love in the present, and always see the potential in those they love. They look at a man not just for who he is, but for what he can become. Their feelings for him are a result of what they see now and their belief in the future. But men are different. When a man loves, he doesn't just look at the present, he looks at the bigger picture. He doesn't love just for what you are showing now, but for what he can build with you in the future. A man who loves is not someone who only lives in emotions, but someone who builds, protects, and provides for the relationship. That's why men, especially those with vision, tend to love through actions rather than words. When a man loves, he doesn't just want to be with you, he wants to do everything possible to give you a better life, a more secure future. That is the nature of men. They are not the ones who sit and wait for love to come, but the ones who act to make love a reality. That's why men often need time to prepare to become the man they feel you deserve. They understand that to love you correctly, they need to be strong, independent, and able to provide for your needs. So when a man is silent, when he steps back to work, it's not giving up, it's preparation. He is building, he is working to become the man he knows you deserve. This doesn't mean he doesn't love you, but he loves you enough not to disappoint you when everything is not yet ready. Women often see a man's silence as distance, but men see it as time for development, to do things right. When men love, they don't want to love only in the present, they want to love in the future, love through actions and preparation. That's why men's love is often expressed through grand gestures, tough decisions, and sometimes necessary silence to prepare for the future. They don't love to be loved back. They love because they want to build a solid foundation for both. A man's love is not easy, not endless romance, but strong commitment, an investment in a shared future. When men love, they don't love with words, they love through actions. And that is the biggest difference between how women and men love. Women love in the present, in emotions, while men love in the future, with preparation and action. And if you can understand this difference, you will understand why a man's love can be silent for a moment, but full in action. When a man loves, he doesn't just see you, he sees himself, and more importantly, he sees his own shortcomings. This is an inseparable part of the journey of love and growth. A true man doesn't just love with his emotions, but also with a deep awareness of himself. When he loves, not just his heart, but his whole mind, thoughts, and ego begin to look at himself, and in your eyes, he sees what he lacks, what is missing. That's why many men, when they meet a woman they truly love, don't just see the potential in the relationship, but also the gap between where they are and where they want to be. They begin to see their own weaknesses that they may have overlooked or not faced directly before. When a man meets a woman he truly values, when he sees potential in the relationship, he starts to see himself as part of a bigger picture. It's at that moment that he doesn't just look at the love he can give you, but at the love he deserves to receive. That's why men can be silent, can retreat, because in that moment they realize they are not good enough, they are not ready to provide the life you deserve. A man who loves doesn't just love you, but also loves what he can become by being with you. He won't stop evaluating, won't stop comparing what he has and what he wants to achieve. For a man, love is not just about living in the present emotions, but a long-term commitment to self-development and becoming who he wants to be. And in this process, a man cannot help but see his shortcomings. He will clearly recognize the things he has not done, the goals he has not achieved, and this drives him to work harder to become the best version of himself. When a man truly loves, he doesn't want you to love him only for who he has been, but he wants you to love him for who he can become. This is not a lack of confidence, but a clear awareness of the potential for growth and improvement. That's why, when a man loves, if he feels he is not enough, he won't want to bring you into his life until he feels ready. This is a respect for you and the relationship he wants to build. A man who loves won't just look at the present, he will look at the future. And when he looks at the future, he doesn't just see you, but he sees himself in it. A strong, mature man capable of giving you everything you deserve. Love is not just an emotion, but growth in action and commitment. And sometimes, that is something the man must realize before he can move forward with you. When he sees himself and his shortcomings, it's not a lack of confidence, but the motivation to become better, to love you more fully. When a man loves, sometimes he must step back, not because he no longer cares or loves you, but because he knows that to love you fully, he must become a better man. Disappearing is not leaving, but a preparation strategy. I've said before, to succeed you must prepare for challenges and great opportunities. Love is the same. A man understands that to sustain love and give the woman he loves a secure future, he cannot just live in emotions. He must act and grow. When he steps back, it's not that he doesn't love you, but that he is working to become the man you deserve. It's not giving up, it's preparing. A true man doesn't want you to see his weakness. He doesn't want you to face his shortcomings, doesn't want you to see that he isn't strong enough to give you the life you deserve. And so he takes a step back. He's not retreating to run away, but to focus on building what's necessary. It's a commitment to the relationship and a respect for you. A man who loves won't bring you into his life until he's ready. He doesn't want to bring you problems he hasn't solved yet. That's why he will step back, to work and prepare better for both of your futures. Not all silence is a sign of abandonment. Sometimes silence is a sign of commitment. A man in love doesn't just want you by his side, he wants you to have a secure future, a full life. And if that requires him to work alone for a while, he will do so. He knows love isn't something achieved through fleeting emotions. It's a long-term commitment, and to achieve that, he must work, he must grow. Sometimes stepping back is necessary to move forward. When he disappears for a time, it's not a sign of indifference, but a sign of preparation. He is preparing for a future in which he can give you what you deserve. True love isn't just loving when everything is smooth, but committing to love until both of you are mature enough to build a solid future together. And sometimes, to achieve that, he must step back a bit. When a man disappears, remember, it's not abandoning you, it's preparing. He's not leaving you, he's preparing to love you more fully, and when he returns, he will become the man you've always hoped for. Men not sharing their emotions immediately doesn't mean they don't have feelings, but because they process them differently. Women may easily express their emotions, sharing directly, saying what they feel, and sometimes this helps them release their emotions. But for men, it's much more complicated. When a man feels something deeply, he doesn't rush to share it immediately because he needs time to understand his emotions before speaking. This is the nature of men. We don't easily open up without being sure of what we're feeling. Emotions for men are not immediate reactions. When a man loves, when he feels something strong, he doesn't just say it. He needs to understand it, decode what he's feeling, because each emotion can influence his major life decisions. For men, processing emotions is not natural. We're not taught to express every emotion immediately. This doesn't mean we don't feel, but simply that we process them differently. When we feel troubled, it's not because we don't want to share, but because we need to figure out what's happening in our minds before we bring it out. Men often don't share emotions immediately because they want to ensure they can process everything logically. They don't want you to see their instability, don't want you to worry about the problems they're facing. So when a man is silent, it's not because he doesn't love you, but because he's processing those emotions, organizing them in his mind so he can return to you stronger. For me, sharing emotions isn't something I do immediately. I need time to think, to understand my feelings, and find effective ways to handle them. That's why many men tend to retreat at important moments, not because they don't care, but because they need space to face themselves. They don't want you to see their unfinished aspects, unresolved parts of themselves. So, a man's silence isn't a sign of lack of care. It's a sign of a man trying to improve himself. When a man loves, he wants to be the strong, stable one for you, and that requires him to understand his emotions before sharing them with you. So, don't quickly judge a man's silence as coldness or lack of interest. Sometimes it's him fighting with himself, processing his emotions, and when he's ready, he will share with you. We don't just need time to think, but also time to work on ourselves, to become the person you deserve. And when we're ready, we won't hesitate to share our deep feelings with you. There's a story I want to share about a man I know who decided to change his life. He wasn't an outstanding person, nor was there anything special about him except his relentless effort to rise. But his story proves one important thing. If you have enough determination and courage to face challenges, you can change not only yourself, but also the world around you. This guy wasn't a successful businessman from the start. He grew up in a family that wasn't wealthy, always struggling with financial difficulties and a challenging life. He had big dreams, but reality didn't match what he was living. He didn't have a stable career, didn't have a clear plan, and often felt lost in a world that didn't seem to have a place for him. But the important thing was, he realized that if he wanted to change his life, he had to do something different. One day, when facing failure, looking in the mirror and asking himself, "Can I do this?" he understood that if he didn't change now, he would never have another chance. No one could do it for him except himself. He decided to take action. He started with the smallest things. He didn't have enough money to start a business right away, didn't have strong relationships to support him, but he had determination, and that was the most important thing. He worked 2 jobs to save money, improve his personal finances, and start rebuilding his life from scratch. He invested time in learning, improving skills, constantly seeking opportunities for growth. Every day, even when tired or not seeing immediate results, he persevered. He understood that change doesn't happen overnight. It's a long process that requires persistence and commitment. After 2 years of hard work and learning, he completely transformed. From having nothing, he now had enough money to start a small business, had the confidence and discipline to continue moving forward. More importantly, he had become a stronger man, not only financially but also mentally. He saw himself as someone capable of making a change, not a victim of circumstances, but the one who creates his own destiny. He returned to look for the woman he had met in the past, the one who had once been his hope, the one he always wanted but wasn't capable of having, and when he entered her life again, not with empty promises, but with action and maturity, she recognized the clear difference in him. They started over, but this time not on a foundation of instability, but on preparation and commitment. His story is not a fairy tale, but a testament that change is entirely possible if you have enough perseverance, preparation, and commitment to your goals. You don't need to have everything from the beginning. You only need determination and the ability to work tirelessly to achieve what you desire, because in life, nothing is impossible if you are willing to work and change. A man's silence doesn't always mean he lacks concern. In fact, sometimes silence is a sign of deep love. Many misunderstand a man's silence and distance, thinking it signals a lack of affection, but it actually reflects a fundamental difference in how we process emotions. Men usually don't process emotions as openly as women. They don't immediately share what they feel. Instead, they need time to think and understand everything before speaking. This isn't distance, but a necessary process to ensure that when they speak, they have carefully thought through their words and can offer the most honest and sincere expression. I've said before that in any big project, from SpaceX to Tesla, time and focus are essential. And in relationships too, time and self-focus are important for growth. When a man doesn't immediately express his feelings, he's not avoiding or indifferent, but focusing his energy and mind on handling what's on his mind. A man doesn't share his emotions immediately because he doesn't want to bring his struggles and worries into your life. He wants to ensure that when he opens up, he can bring you peace, not another burden. Men are not taught to express emotions right away. They are often encouraged to be independent, to handle problems on their own, and not let emotions overshadow logic. When he's silent, it's not because he's withdrawing from you, but facing his own issues. He needs time to understand exactly what's going on in his mind. This doesn't mean he doesn't love you, but he loves you enough not to bring his chaotic feelings to you until he's figured out how to resolve them. Silence is sometimes a form of respect, a way for a man to keep the relationship from being disrupted by unresolved thoughts. It's when he takes time to process his emotions, assess the situation, and work on himself. Not all silence is a sign of indifference, and if you understand this, you'll realize that sometimes silence is the greatest love. A man who truly loves doesn't want you to carry unnecessary worries. Instead, he'll keep those problems to himself until he can handle them and return to you with a stable mind, ready to share. This is why a man's silence shouldn't be understood one-dimensionally. It can be a sign that he's working on himself, seeking clarity and inner peace before entering your life as a steady partner. Silence isn't avoidance, but a process of self-improvement, a way for him to become the man you deserve. Don't be quick to judge silence as a lack of interest. Understand that sometimes silence is when a man is working on himself so he can return stronger, clearer, and able to give you what you truly deserve. And that is love, that can sometimes only be seen through silence, not words. When a man is silent, it's not always a sign of distance or lack of care. Sometimes it's how he's handling problems in his own way. Men, especially those with vision and determination, don't process emotions the way you might be familiar with. Instead of immediately sharing, they retreat to analyze and solve the problem systematically. Just as I face major challenges in my work, from building SpaceX to managing Tesla, I know that when confronted with a problem, having time to think and solve it wisely is crucial. For men, emotions are not something they immediately share. When faced with difficulties, they don't easily withdraw and start expressing their feelings. They take time to reassess the situation, analyze the causes, and find the best solution. This is the essence of problem solving. A skill I've learned throughout my career, and perhaps you'll notice it in the men in your life. When a man is silent, it doesn't mean he doesn't care about you, but that he's working on himself, processing what's going on in his mind. Men aren't the type to immediately share emotions. They need time to analyze and organize their thoughts, especially when faced with major issues. If you understand that during this time, they're figuring out how to solve the problem, you'll realize that their silence isn't indifference, but part of the process of self-improvement and growth. Just like when I face a difficult situation at work, instead of rushing to act, I usually take time to analyze all the factors involved, find the cause, and determine the best solution. For men, this is how they handle problems in life and relationships. When a man is silent, he doesn't want to pull you into a situation he's not clear about. He doesn't want to make you worry or endure his instability when everything isn't resolved. That's why men often need time alone to think, plan, and make wise decisions. Therefore, a man's silence is not abandonment, but preparation to return to you stronger, ready to face challenges effectively. They don't want you to feel burdened with their worries, and instead of sharing their emotions carelessly, they'll temporarily step back to sort everything out in their mind, and when they return, they will be a solid, clear man who can face challenges without making you worry or lose your calm. So, when a man is silent, don't quickly judge him as uncaring. Understand that silence can be a sign of maturity, of someone working to improve themselves and the relationship. It's when he's solving problems in his own way, and when he returns, he'll be a more complete man, not only for himself, but for you. A man's silence doesn't always reflect a lack of care or fading affection. Sometimes, in that silence, he's facing a deep fear he's not ready to share. I've gone through times when silence wasn't avoidance, but a way for me to protect myself, to shield things I wasn't sure I could share right away. Men, especially those with a vision, sometimes can't open up immediately because they're afraid. They're afraid that if they share too soon, they'll expose weaknesses, afraid their feelings will be judged or not accepted. When a man is silent, he may be feeling internal pressure that he doesn't easily let out. It's the fear of his own ability, whether he's good enough, whether he can do what he promised. This fear isn't weakness, but an awareness of the shortcomings he hasn't overcome yet. Just like in work, when I faced tough challenges, from developing Tesla to uncertain tests and SpaceX projects, I couldn't share all my worries immediately. Fear isn't something easily admitted, especially when you want others to see you as a leader, a strong. Men are the same. When they love and are truly serious, they fear they won't be able to protect the ones they love, that they won't be able to give them the life they deserve. This fear isn't a lack of confidence, but a clear awareness of the responsibility they carry. They don't want you to see that weakness because they understand that in your eyes, they need to be strong and steady. Sometimes, silence is the natural response when a man feels he's not ready to face his fears. He may not want you to see his worries, doubts, or uncertain feelings. He may not want to share these things with you for fear it'll disappoint you or create distance between you. This fear isn't a lack of care, but protection. He doesn't want you to carry things he hasn't been able to solve. When he's silent, it doesn't mean he's withdrawing from you. It's simply that he's trying to work through personal issues, things he needs to overcome alone before he can fully share with you. Silence is sometimes a way for him to prepare, to return stronger and more confident, not just for himself, but for you. So when you see him silent, don't jump to conclusions that he no longer loves you or doesn't care. Understand that he might be fighting with his own fears, things he can't share immediately. And when he returns, when he's ready to face those fears, he'll be a stronger man, not just for himself, but for you. Silence in love isn't always distance. Sometimes it's necessary to face fears we're not ready to confront. And that's when a man truly needs time to overcome his fears and come back as the man you deserve. Time apart is not a sign of the end, but a test of love. When we go through periods without seeing each other, it's not a void where love disappears, but an opportunity to test each person's resolve and trust in the relationship. In times of separation, love isn't measured by whether you're together every day, but by how each person continues to grow, explore themselves, and prepare for greater challenges in the future. Have you ever wondered if your love can endure when you're not together, when you don't have conversations every day, when you can't hold hands whenever you need comfort? That's when you see the true strength of love. Love isn't something you can hold on to just by being close to each other. It's something you nurture even when apart. When we are apart, we have the chance to see the relationship differently. We no longer rely on physical closeness to feel love, but must find ways to nurture affection from within through trust and commitment. I have faced huge challenges at work, times when I had to focus entirely on my goals while personal relationships took a backseat. But it's in these times that I realized strong relationships, true love, are never affected by temporary absence. In fact, time apart helps us see the essence of love, self-reliance, and the commitments each person is nurturing. It's a time for each person in the relationship to grow independently, to face their own challenges without relying on the other. And this is important not only in love, but in all relationships, from colleagues to friends and family. If love can endure time apart, it will grow stronger when you reunite. Not every relationship can withstand this test, but true relationships, those built on understanding, trust, and mutual respect, won't be broken by distance. Time apart is a test to see if you can stand strong without each other's presence, if you can continue to love and care even when there's no daily presence. And when you meet again, that love will be stronger, clearer, and more certain than ever. Not all relationships need time apart to test love, but the truly strong ones will never weaken when faced with this test. If you can love and maintain the relationship during the time apart, it's a sign of lasting love that can face any challenges in the future. Love is not something measured by current moments. It's measured by the ability to overcome difficulties through time apart, through each person's growth. And when you reunite after that time, you'll see that your love not only survives, but is much stronger than before.